right. And
This is John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneur on Fire, and you're listening to Tia's Talking with Carolyn Moore. You must be prepared to ignite.
hello, everyone. We are back again for another Tia's Talking session with your host, Tara Lynn Moore. And we have some special guests here tonight that are they're just listen, they're just bigger than life, and I'm so excited to have them on here tonight. We have our good friend and brother who has been here before with us, TJ Bussey, and he is a poet and a principal and a author, and he has something to say, and I'm glad he's here with us tonight. And we have the Right Reverend Dr. Boise Kimber with us tonight. I'm so privileged and honored to have him. He took some time to spend with us, and we need him in this dialogue tonight. Trey Brown is going to join us in a little while, so be looking out for him. But while I have these two guys' attention, let me start off by just asking them to share with me a little bit of what they have going on right now, because at the end of the show, we get so worked up, I forget. And if you want to share anything that you have going on immediately, TJ, you can let us know right now what's happening. Give us your contact information, all of that, so because we're gonna forget later. I already know.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to be back here again with the awesome Pastor Tara Lynn. This has been an awesome opportunity to be a part of this growing journey with her. Right now, I am in the midst of being a middle school principal in a pandemic. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's where all my focus is, all my attention. And so that's where I am currently. But I am working on a new book, the fourth book of my poetry collection. Not ready to share the title yet because I'm making sure that it's not, it's mine and it's mine alone. So I'm not ready to share it just yet, but I am working on a fourth collection of poetry dedicated to Black women. So I'm really excited about putting that together. And it kind of sparked out of Breonna Taylor and some of the things that were noted, and people were saying how Black women were being forgotten. And once George Floyd was murdered, a lot of people were saying, especially Black women that I saw in the community, they were crying out, don't forget about us, don't forget about us. And I wanted to make sure that Black women knew that we are honoring George Floyd and fighting for him, but we're also fighting for you all as well as Black women. And we're not forgetting about Breonna Taylor while we're fighting for all of our, because all Black lives matter. Black men, Black women, we all matter together. So I want to make sure that focus is being kind of tended in this moment. You can find me on all social media at Taveres Teaches, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything is Taveres Teaches. And my website is also TaveresTeaches.com. So look out for me there, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you again for having me.
See, I like that. See, you got your stuff together. You are unified amongst all your social media, and the branding is tight over there. I got to talk to you after the show. And last but not least, we have Dr. Kimber here tonight, and he don't have no problem. Remind you, he is Reverend Dr. Kimber, so we don't want to mess that up. Reverend, can you share with us?
I would hope you would not mess that up. Those are earned degrees, classroom work and time. And so nobody gave me an honorary degree. I don't have nothing against honorary doctorate degree, but I just want you to know that this came with the blood, sweat, and tears.
I love it. For me, because everybody thinks they know you. This is how New Haven is. They think they know you. They've heard something about you, and then they take that as the gospel. But can you tell us about young Reverend Dr. Boise Kimber and how he came to be involved in activism and fighting for colored people's rights?
Well, most people think I grew up in North Carolina because I came here from North Carolina. I grew up in Alabama, a little town called Phoenix City, Alabama. I grew up under the regime of George Wallace, who was governor when I was a young kid. I think I fell in love with social justice because one, I was 60 miles from Montgomery, Alabama. Two, I, we had to fight as young kids when we were in school. Went to an all black school until they integrated the school, and then we had to ride, 20 miles one way to school. And so I really started, my activism somewhere around the ninth grade. I led a protest in high school on Martin Luther King Jr. Assassination. And I led that protest, and we got coverage way back then, 30 years, 40 years ago or better. And so, I've had an opportunity to meet all of the civil rights leaders and be a part of them, all except Martin Luther King Jr. And so social justice is what I believe in. I believe that Jesus was a social justice preacher. He talked about feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, lifting people. I did my dissertation for my doctorate at United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio, developing a social justice consciousness in a local congregation. I did a master's in sacred theology at Yale, a critical analysis of Black women in ministry in the Black church. And then I did a master's at Harvard Seminary, homosexuality in the Black church. And so those are civil rights things that I believe in. I believe that the Black church has the ceiling when it comes to Black women in ministry and Black women in general. Black men cannot act like white men when it comes to our women. We must open that door, and then the Black church must understand that there are gays and lesbians in our churches. And when I did my master's, I read it to my church. The church adopted it back in 1997. One, that we would love gays and lesbians. Two, that they would be a part of us. Three, that they can hold office in our church, and they would be our brothers and sisters. The only thing that we did not do, and we have not did, that we would co-sign same-sex marriage in our church. And so those are some of the things that I've done. People judge me on the basis of what white people say and what they read. They don't know me. They don't know my story. And there are a lot of Nicodemus people in this city who come to me by night. You'd be
yes,
surprised
Lord. Come on.
the number of calls that I get during the course of the day and during the course of the evening about wanting to help, and their kids are in trouble and they need this and that. So I tell people now, let's be real. If I help you, tell somebody I helped you. If you got contact with me, it's let's be real about what we say, what we do. We built a new church there in New Hallville. People said we would never finish it. So, I let the naysayers talk. But the critical and crucial thing that is happening with us now here in New Haven and across this country, we need to think about and get ready to go vote. That's going to be important. And that's what I am pushing. As you said earlier, I recently, a couple of days ago, elected as the president of the Connecticut State Missionary Baptist Convention. I served 8 years before, and I came back this time with an overwhelming support of the brothers and sisters in our denomination. We have about 80 churches that are part of our convention, and we're looking forward to doing even greater things.
You touched on so many of the taboo topics that I would love to have a conversation about on this show, and since you put it out there, Reverend, I'm gonna be calling you back for some of this stuff here. But uniquely tonight, I want, and that's a privilege and an honor, and I appreciate that, sir. One thing I like about you, Reverend Kimber, is that you have a conviction, and I tell preachers in our church, how can you be a preacher without a conviction? How can you be a leader without a conviction? And I really appreciate that about you. And the second thing is, you don't have a problem speaking your mind. Me and TJ were just talking about that, because people like to talk about what they feel behind closed doors, but not enough to get any change, outwardly. So I appreciate that. But uniquely tonight, go ahead.
And it's, I tell people all the time that I'm an independent Black preacher. I don't work for none of the establishment, and I don't have nothing against brothers and sisters working for the establishment, but there must be some free Black preachers that are able to say what others can't say and able to articulate what others cannot articulate. And so I happen to be one of those independent free slaves that can say what needs to be said to the master and not worried about being fired.
Got you. I wanted to speak further to, both of you brought up the fact that either the overlooking of Black women or just the total dismissing of them as viable thought leaders and leaders in general. But it seems in the Black church, especially, that the guard is changing, or the face is changing a little bit. And I want to ask you both, like, what do you think is opening that up a little bit more? Growing up, we had like 2 women preachers that I knew of, and now it seems to be that women are pastoring. I myself am pastoring now, but they're more the independent church pastors. How can women better suit themselves to be viable candidates in organizations per se to get these positions where men have been predominantly the leaders in times past? You have a thought on that?
I guess for me, I grew up, like I said, I grew up missionary Baptist down south. So I when I, living in South Carolina and seeing patriarchal society and how that's being kind of played out in terms of the church world, I kind of always I only knew Black men to be the preachers. I only knew Black men to be the reverends and the pastors. And even in our organization, when you had, I know the one that I grew up, the church I grew up in, they didn't allow women to even stand in the pulpit. That wasn't even a thing. Like, that wasn't something that we were. And there were women who preached, but they preached like on the floor in front of like a little podium. That's what I grew up seeing. And
they weren't even called preachers; they were called like missionaries. Like,
they were called something else. They were never called like, the first of all, I didn't even know what elder was. I moved up here. So it was either you were a reverend, or you were a missionary, or you were a deacon. That was it. So I don't even know that. So that world was different for me. So when I moved up, out of college, I actually joined a church that was led by a female. And it was one of the most freeing experiences of my, spiritual journey, because I saw something that I didn't see before. And I also saw the respect she had as the pastor, but I also saw her humility as a woman. Like, she still gave space for the men to be men, right. And she didn't try to overtake or overshadow this thing. And I can remember her talking about her being a female pastor, and she said that she was having some personal time with God, and she prayed about some things, and she did ask God the question, why am I pastoring? Why am I a female pastor? Because she really believed that men are supposed to be pastors too. She really believed that, and she believed in her personal talk. I remember she said in her conversation with God that He expressed to her she was being put where she was because men were not taking their place in the body of Christ, and they were not doing what they should be doing. So he took whoever said yes, and she happened to be one of the ones who said yes. So that was kind of the way that I saw how women were being placed into the ministry and being pushed out into the forefront, because even in my home church, like, the majority of the members were women. Like, women are like, they are the backbone. They are the backbone of black churches.
9.94%, right?
Yeah, you can't have a black church and then think it's going to survive if you exclude black women. They're going to be there and they're going to hold you up. So I kind of saw that play out. I kind of have some progressive ideas about that now that I'm in this space. I think that, I feel like God can use whomever, God can use whoever said yes to him. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's make it happen. And so kind of where we are right now. It just feels like some black men have to be comfortable allowing God to do that. And I think that a lot of black men in ministry, especially the power dynamic, aren't as ready as possible as they could be to let women, do what God is calling them to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Reverend Kimber, what are you saying about that?
Well, black men have taken on the habit and the creature aspect of the white slave when it comes to the freedom of black women to do what God has called them to do. And the brothers must lift their feet off of the necks of women who desire to preach the word of God. And so when I first got to New Haven, the first two women preachers that I met was the Reverend Dr. Ardell Tucker and Bishop Rose Wheeler. Ardell Tucker, at 80 years old, could preach better than any man in this city.
That's true.
And so there is this crowd of women that are out there that certainly is carrying the gospel. But if God has called you to preach, here's one of my prerequisites: that I want you to go to school. And I want you to embellish what God has put into you. School does not make you, but it embellishes your preaching capability to dissect the theological concept of what it means to be a preacher. And so I just think that it is important that this door is open, and that women would take their place in ministry beside us, not behind us. And that there are strong black women in the past. Prathia Hall, whole lot of strong black women. Weems out of Nashville, and so those are the type of strong, intellectual, academically women that some women need to sit under and glean from what they have to say, because it's not a good thing to just sit under a man's preaching when you are a woman's preacher, a woman preacher. You ought to find someone that has had the experience, understand, and allow them to be a mentor to you.
Mentorship is a big thing, and I think it's underrated in the Black community at large, but especially in the Black church. Once somebody finds out they have a call, and depending on how fiery you get on that Pentecostal spectrum, they start losing their minds. And the day of the call, they have a business card and a Facebook page, and they're trying to make a name for themselves. And I think a lot of people are missing the pouring down of the wine from one generation to the next, or the oil, if people want to be oily, because they just don't want to sit still and they just don't want to hear anybody. And you could be gifted. And I was telling them that this morning. There's a lot of people who are chasing gifted preachers who have no anointing or no oil. And it becomes a thing of And when they're out there doing any and everything, and they have no accountability. I have a bishop that if I go rogue, he will get me together. If my mother don't get to it first, praise God. but we have to have mentorship because it makes it easier. No, reinventing the wheel is just dumb when the wheel is already invented and somebody can show you how they got it done. And it'll save you time. People really need to invest. And people don't want to invest in their own development. That's a whole nother thing. They want people to give them the full plan for nothing. And like you were saying earlier, Reverend, you help so many people, you mentor so many people, and then when you need some small requirement of them, they're nowhere to be found. They're at the barbershop like they do me, saying something crazy about you, knowing that you had their back, and that ain't right. But we ain't gonna get there because I'm gonna get an attitude about that. Can we talk for a few seconds about this whole Breonna Taylor thing and how? Like Trey is not on tonight because he had a friend that was killed today on the Lord's Day, and it's really interesting that after George Floyd, no, this is New Britain he's in.
Okay,
he's in New Britain. After George Floyd, and we've had Breonna Taylor, and we've had Aubrey. We still don't even know what the whole story is with that. Did we get any kind of something out of that? That this is still happening. How in the world is this still happening with all of this national attention? And Black folks are still saying that they're not going to vote. What sense does this make? I don't know.
I mean, I understand it. I do understand it. Like, I get it. When you are subjugated to a system that's designed to oppress you, it's often hard to see the through line of your freedom being also attached to that system. So I get that sometimes, as some people are feeling disenfranchised. The Electoral College is crappy. It's very convoluted. It's outdated. It has no real purpose in our current society in terms of how it operates. So I can see how Black people feel that way. But I still, I'm always of the mindset is that those of us who know more and know better, we gotta continue like sounding the alarm and saying and giving the real information, because there's a lot of misinformation out there that's being kind of like blasted over social media. You talk about Facebook having all of these issues with Russian bots and all these other things that are being infiltrated to kind of put messages out there that are very propagandized about what's happening to Black folks and the disenfranchisement about. I'm thinking about what's happening now with Superior Court Justice, bless her heart, rest her soul, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and how all of a sudden, forget 2016, it's like urgent. We got to fill that spot now. Come on now. And then, of course, I posted today. It's very interesting how they know how powerful the vote is. They know, when I say they, I mean the GOP, the Republicans. They know how powerful the vote is. They know how powerful the Supreme Court is. But yet we here are thinking about it's about Biden and it's about Harris. And I'm like, it's never been about them for me. It's always been about the Supreme Court. It's always been about, voter disenfranchisement and how the GOP is purposely suppressing the votes, like in very, very strategic and specific spots in our nation. And to me, we got to see past that propaganda to get to the real information. But it's up to us who know better and know more to really kind of push it out and keep saying it and keep sounding the alarm. This is not what they're saying. This is what they're telling y'all. It's a scare y'all. But the reality is you have power. And you have really power. And when you fill up and make your vote count, you really have agency to make things happen, not just locally or just statewide, but you have the ability to make it happen nationally. Mm-hmm. And that's up to us who know more and know better to really put that out there and really encourage, get in the streets, talk to everybody we know and make sure that the message is clear. What you're reading ain't always fact. That's because Wikipedia said it, don't mean it's real. Because Google said it, doesn't mean it's real. Because Facebook said it, doesn't mean it's real. Like, there's some information that really, really, really is compounding us and making me see that we got to really put that message out there. And I am sounding the alarm as much as I can. I'm telling y'all, this stuff is strategic. They know what they're doing. Like, this is not happenstance that they're ready to put somebody in the seat before this woman even gets buried. And that's not that's not
an accident.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Reverend?
So just don't vote. Just don't vote. Here's what's going to happen if you don't vote.
Okay.
The hands of time will be turned back.
1940.
The 1964 Civil Rights Bill, Civil Rights Act 65, will be taken away. On November the 10th of this year, the Supreme Court will hear about the Obamacare insurance. And they're trying to dismantle that. They're trying to dismantle everything that has to do with Black people. Everything. So don't sit home and say, my vote don't count. Let me say something to you. If there ever was a time that Black folks should vote, you better go to the poll. Because if you don't go to the poll and you get that fool back in office, is no telling. It's going to be a civil war in this country. Because white folks now don't care. They don't care. Look at it. Look at the Supreme Court today. Look at why they have been waiting on Justice Ginsburg to die. They've been waiting on that. Trump has been planning and waiting. That's why they were so quick to come out. The racist people that we have in Congress and Senate, not just in Congress and Senate, but just right here in the state of Connecticut, we are in trouble. From a housing aspect, we're in trouble. From a healthcare issue, we are in trouble. From an educational standpoint, divorce, we're in trouble. And we sitting around saying it don't matter. You know what? I will say this to Black preachers. You cannot preach the gospel of Jesus Christ without preaching about social justice, because it is your people who are hungry, your people who are sick and can't get health care, your people who cannot get a good education, and all we want to do is shout and praise God. That's all good. But you better watch and see what is happening and teach and train your people about the importance of going to the polls to vote. We stand to lose another generation of young people because of this COVID-19 and because this city here does not know how to do virtual learning. Over a third of the people in this city, kids in this city, have not signed on to virtual learning. And here, because we started a learning hub from the clergy, they're saying, well, why did y'all do that? Listen, critical. Every Black person in this city, in this country, ought to be mad at the system and ought to want to stand up against the system. And now the system is saying, we want you Black folks to take the shot for the virus first. Y'all take it first and see how it operates. Go get your flu shot. Do what the CDC says and forget a coronavirus 19 shot. All these people are making it. And what is going to say that it is right? We have an update at our church every Sunday by Dr. Janice Nelson to tell us what is happening and what we ought to be doing. We're in trouble, people. And the only way that we're going to get out of trouble is that we gotta go and vote and stand up for what we believe in. John Lewis called it good trouble. It's good trouble to stand up against injustice. It's good trouble to fight for the oppressed. It's good trouble to fight for those who are disenfranchised. Please, don't be fooled by what they say. You see the racism on television. You see all of these white people and some blacks at rallies with no mask on. A president that is cursing. Now I cuss, but I don't cuss in. I don't know whether I cuss in public or not, but whatever. You know, if it get tough, you know. So, but I'm saying, just look at it. Look at what we're dealing with, y'all. And so we are totally in trouble here. It's bad, T. We have a principal on with us today. He sees what's happening.
I don't. You know what was shocking? I thought well, shocking and not shocking is that I think that the pandemic and the COVID-19 virus really showed America how great we are not in certain ways. Like we're very arrogant and stuck up, and you know. We have all these freedoms and blah, blah, blah. But every system almost that we have is inept. Am I using the right word? Inept? Like, why wouldn't the education system be on top of technology?
I mean, we're like the
emperor. I mean, you have 6-year-olds in China that code. They're making the computers that we're using. And we still have our kids, you know, trying to figure out their alphabet from the Muppet Show. And that's not a knock, because I still love the Muppet Show. I really do. You know, Big Bird is my dude. But we have to do something with this, the curriculum, or how we're teaching, or what we're teaching. What's happening here? We were the world power, and now we are especially with this new president we got here. We're like the joke.
We're like the emperor with new clothes who doesn't even know we're naked. That's what we're like. That's what we're like. Honestly, we think we're looking. We think we flashy. We have a little bit of morality, and like that. Kimber said, being in a school right now, where the entire population that I serve are Black and brown children, and to see the disparities that some of their counterparts are having in the public school arena, it's really making me reflect. Like, I'm having anxiety attacks regularly because I really want to make sure my kids have everything they need, and our parents have everything they need to make sure that while we're in this situation, we're able to make sure that they have the services, they're provided with the things they need, the hot spots they need, so that we can really, really make sure that we don't lose ground. Because thinking about the COVID loss that we had to their education, and thinking about the summer loss, and we already have opportunity gaps in Connecticut. Like, it's been a very stressful time, because I understand that the powers that be in our federal agency are not for us. They don't really care if we doing it, and to be real, they're only opening the schools for economic purposes. They're really not thinking about kids. They want the economy to come back, and of course, parents can't work if kids are not in school. So they got to figure out something to do to make sure that the economy is still working, because so it really ain't about the kids, it's about the money, which is really American. So it kind of doesn't surprise me that we're doing it this way, because COVID is still a thing. Like, I think I saw the other day on CNN how Connecticut had like 200 and something cases, like in one day over the past week, and so it's still a thing, and people are acting like it's not a thing, and it's frustrating, because I know that we could do better, we could be better. If we kind of center ourselves around what really is important, model out, look at what other countries are doing that are having really, really high success rates. I'm thinking about New Zealand. I'm thinking about other places that are like doing really, really phenomenal jobs with this. There are models out there that are working, and we're so arrogant, and we're so not just arrogant, but we're full of pride as a country that we're not even willing to give credit to what credit's to do, and look at those models that are working and see how it can fit into what we need. to me, it's kind of ridiculous, but once again, it's not surprising because America's always been kind of ridiculous as far as I'm concerned in terms of the way we treat our people at our most basic human level. That's kind of, so it's not really surprising. So yeah, it's really distressful to be in a situation like this, having to disturb kids and knowing that the city is not providing everything it needs to make sure our kids are having what they deserve.
But I mean, yeah, we could blame the part of it on the system, but how is it that your child got a $500 Xbox, M-box, all the boxes, PS 2, 3, 4? They about to come out with a new one, right? Because my brother's been telling my mother about it, and you don't have a laptop. Really? Like I don't understand.
My kids don't have an excuse because all of our kids have Chrome. We're a 1-to-1 school at Booker T, so all of our kids have Chromebooks from us. So we've eliminated excuses. Like there are no excuses. We have hotspots for our families who need it, who say they don't have. So we have eliminated the excuses. So it's all about eliminating excuses. And I understand parents got to take a part in this. Parents have to be actively engaged in this process. They got to be actively engaged in the educational process. But at the end of the day, I have no control over the parents. I only have control over what I do for my kids. So that's kind of where I'm. Mm-hmm.
I think you got to look at it this. I look at it this way. One, the leadership of this country. We did not have to. I got to tell, this is, hold on one second. This is Joe Biden people calling. Antoine,
Dr. Kimber, how are you?
I'm good. I'm still on this show here, and I will call you when I finish it. I will call you as soon as I finish.
Okay, no rush. We're still in the holding pattern. I just want to give you a heads up. You're still waiting for budget, but hopefully if it's not tonight, tomorrow morning.
All right.
So let's just check in.
All right, I'll check in back with you. Yeah.
Hope that wasn't confidential.
So I'll tell you. So listen. Leadership is important. Donald Trump knew back in February that this coronavirus was headed to the United States. He did everything that he could to disavow it, that it wasn't true. Dr. Sanjay Gupta said the other day, we could have saved over 100 and some lives if the leadership had taken this serious, did not take it serious. I'm trying to figure out how can we file a class action suit against the president for killing 200,000 people and not putting things in. Still today, he has not put anything in place. And people are excited about it. Poor white people are excited about it, not knowing that their food stamps are going to be cut, not knowing that their health care is going to be cut, not knowing that they may not have a place to live. We talk about the education system. Listen, Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford are the largest districts. And they are the 3 districts that are behind. All these other little towns and cities, they've been gave their kids Chromebooks and computers and iPads. We did not even have them in stock in New Haven.
Wow.
And now we're rushing to get people Chromebooks, and you don't even have Wi-Fi in these communities. They can't even get hotspots. But yet and still, we are still hiring administrators. $250,000 for administrators. We're still
wait. Hold on, Reverend. You mean in our education system in these cities, we're still hiring administrators?
New Haven is still hiring administrators.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, all right. So
They're
what do we
still
need?
trying
What
to
do we need
invest.
administration for if half the staff is laid off?
Hey, they're still hiring people. They have no idea on how to get a grip on the learning pattern for our kids.
My God.
No idea. And that's why they want them to come back to school, because they feel comfortable with them being in school to teach them, to be in front of them. But then you have the teachers union that is saying, no, we ain't ready to go back. You got the governor, you got the mayor, you got the board of education, 3 or 4 of them saying, let the kids come back. And here they're saying, we're not going, some board members are saying, we're not going in no school until there is a cure for this virus. We ain't going in them. So why you send our kids in the schools to a death trap?
Yeah.
So here we are. Here we are. We missed half of a year last year. We're gonna miss a whole year this year. They ain't going back to school because they're not prepared to receive them, and this virus will come back up next month during the flu season.
So
what
I don't. Can y'all answer this for me? Because I won't say that school name because I don't want to offend. I don't want to offend them. But I went to a certain school in town, so there's not much cognitive expectation from me. So I need y'all Yale and Morehouse folks and all them fancy degrees y'all got to explain this one to me. What is so hard about one teacher getting their class in Zoom because it holds 100 folks and teaching them remotely like we did at Albertus? Sometimes we was home and the teacher was at the board and we talked to classmates and those that were in the class and those that stayed home. We all talked together. I don't understand why this is so difficult when there are school systems that are already doing this. Oh God, I don't want to get in trouble. Well, the school I was at, they having small problems like light bulbs. Like, can you put a light bulb in this hallway?
So let me speak from the vantage point of an educator who's like in the trenches right now. So I can tell you that there are layers to virtual learning, because particularly at my school, we're actually doing 2 models. We're doing the hybrid model where we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, which Friday everybody's doing their distance learning on Friday. But we also allowed our parents to select to do distance learning 100%, and we hired people to do that with them. So here is the issue. The issue is you have to be culturally sensitive and responsive to what our kids need in order to teach them correctly. Because consider this: in a classroom, you have to have several skill sets and toolkits to really keep our kids engaged in person. And the reality is, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of our teachers who don't look like us don't have those skills to keep our kids engaged in person. So there is literally, if you think about putting those same teachers who don't have the skill set to keep our kids engaged in person on a Zoom call where kids can go blank, they can log off, they can do all kinds of things, it takes a lot of learning on the part of the teacher who has no experience in person. And of course, me being a Black man has been very, very, I guess, kind of a plus for the teachers that I work with, because I see that, so I'm able to kind of help them maneuver that, because my virtual teachers are having some issues with keeping our kids engaged. And the kids are not interested. They're bored. Parents are like, this is not what we want. So I'm able to kind of look at what's going on and really navigate the world so that people can really do it correctly. But honestly, there are some kids who cannot do virtual learning. They need to have a person with them for them to learn. So it's being able to be flexible.
They need a teacher to harass is what they need. But here's the other thing. And this is the same thing I say about the police department. If you're having a problem with connectivity, then maybe your reach for teachers should be from that community. These high schools are graduating all these kids every year. Why aren't you there rather than sending them ROTC, whatever, trying to send them to Afghanistan? Why don't you put them on the police training and get people from their community? Then you won't have so many police shootings, because I'm not going to shoot Ray Ray because I grew up with him, but I am responsible. Like I tell them, don't get mad at me because I got to preach about sin. That's what I'm called to do now. Don't give me a hard time. I'm gonna tell you about your sin, but you know, it won't be so much connectivity even with teachers in the classroom. Why not go after more male Black teachers? There's a whole bunch of Black women that got degrees. That art program has become like finding a needle in the haystack, and how you get certified has become hieroglyphics. And nobody wants to be in the classroom with these bad kids. What is so hard about certifying people that look like the folks in the class?
They are not bad. Don't say that. They're not bad.
Oh, okay. Help a sister out.
Let me raise this.
Because really, I asked the principal. I asked the principal, how do you get certified? And she told me she didn't know.
Let me
That's
raise
a lie. She knows.
Let me raise this. Learning is important, not only for the educational piece of virtual learning, but from the church standpoint. We would be out of business if we did not go virtually to speak to our people. We were not ready. New Haven was not ready, and New Haven is not ready now. So we start this educational hub that is ran by the Clergy Association. Stephen Cousin was very instrumental in putting the pieces together. I was very instrumental in running my mouth about why we needed it. So we started one. So now we have 14 kids now that are part of this learning hub, opening up another site on Monday. Out of those 14 kids, check this out, at least 3 to 5 of them are white. Signed up. Because parents cannot leave kids at home expecting them to sign on. We were able to bring in Lola Nathan, who was principal at Davis Street School for 25 years, to organize this, organize the teachers, organize the technology people, the exercise people, the whole gamut. And there's someone there, if they got a problem with logging on, can log them on. Why fight about the Black church using their church free for a learning hub? They don't understand. That's where we started, in school, in the church. And that's where we back now. And so what do? They pimping us with education. Because some of them are not teaching our kids. And right now, this virtual stuff and they at home, it's a wash. If parents do not put their kids in an environment that someone can help them, then we're going to lose them. That's the bottom line. We're going to lose them. So, Tara, you talk about police, you talk about this. Let me say something to you. Black people in this city don't know how much danger we're in. From an educational standpoint, from a police brutality standpoint, from a job standpoint, from a healthcare standpoint. We got problems. And we sitting around in the house or in the church talking about who's gonna lead.
Right. Absolutely. We focused on the wrong thing again.
Right, and it's also, to me, which is one of the reasons why I've been sitting at home for the last 2 years on Sunday. I feel like there's this disconnect. Well, this disconnect when you have churches who are doing the community work, who are opening their doors to allow kids and families who need that support to learn, and then they're getting the pushback. Like, to me, that, and they get not just pushback from the people who actually, you know, who are supposed to be quote unquote the educators or whatever, but you get the pushback from other churches who are not doing the same thing and don't have the same ability, and we're fighting against each other to support and to come together and fighting against each other versus coming together to see how we really can support. Because that's really the reality that I'm facing. Because there are some parents that I have who literally cannot, like, this 2-day-a-week thing. You can't tell a job, I can only work Monday and Wednesday. You can't tell a job that. You can't tell a job. That's just
not to keep that job.
You know, but thankfully,
you know what's, no, I was going to say not and keep it. And you know what's sad, that amongst clergy, it's sad to say that is so much competition. And I'm like, competition for what? I'm going on my 8th year, and I'm like, y'all fighting over the same musicians, same singers, and same 5 members that been to the same 3 churches that's popular right now. And it's ridiculous, because at the end of the day, we could do more together than we would everybody trying to be the big dog and the big head.
Yeah, but what makes what makes your church popular? Because you got good choir, because you got a halfway good preacher. What makes your church popular when you are not even outside of the walls? Your members' kids are failing. Your members' kids are doing the shooting. Your member kids are going to jail. Your members' kids can't find a job, and they can't find a job. So what are we doing as clergy to help people, to empower people spiritually, education, economically? What are we doing?
I don't see much. And to answer that question about the popular, it seems like, it's like a herd of sheep. They all go to one church, and then when that one don't cool down, they all move. And it's just, it's your season to take care of the herd. But I digress. Can we talk, because I know we got to wind this up soon. Can we talk a little bit about this settlement of $12 million? For Breonna Taylor? It doesn't seem like there's an admission of guilt. It just seems, we want to see people go to jail, like the consequence of it. I think that we are, I don't know, maybe are we trading dollars for lives? I don't know what this means. And I want to know what your perspective is about this, because truthfully, a person that is working hard, is home in their bed because they're working hard, and they are killed for no reason, and then the boyfriend is taken to jail. I'm still, I don't know how this all makes sense, or if it makes sense at all. So help us out.
Well, you got two branches. You got 2 branches of law here.
Okay.
You got the branch where the city has the insurance, and that the city is responsible for reckless and endangered police officers. And then you got the criminal piece of it, which has not been solved as of yet. So the city has solved their portion of it based on the fact of what they have offered her family. Offered the family, and that's what they negotiated. There was a lot of negotiation going on. And so they negotiated $12 million for this family, for a life. A life is worth more than $12 million. But for them receiving $12 million, and probably they would not have gotten much more because of the negotiation that Ben Crump did. But on the bottom line of this is that the city has said that these officers were negligent.
Okay.
That's why they paid off. Because they were in the wrong. A no-knock search warrant. Now you got a black attorney general in Kentucky that is Republican.
Air quote, black.
Who is doing his own investigation and have not yet brought anything back. Now they just created a grand jury, so we'll see what happens with that. I mean, our lives are not worth much when they kill us, when they shoot us. I mean, it ought to be more than black lives crying out. Black people in general need to cry out.
Yeah, it hurt my heart when I found out that this dude was a fraternity brother. He was a fraternity brother of mine, but I was heartbroken to see that. But I don't honestly think this from a civilian standpoint, because usually, when I think about the criminal side and the civil side, usually, when I've seen it, the civil side comes after they don't get what they want on the criminal side. Like I'm thinking about what happened with other cases where the person wasn't found guilty at all, but they were able to get some type of recompense from on the civil side. But in Kentucky, they're doing it backwards. Like they did the civil side first, which to me means they have no intention of doing anything criminally. Like they really have no intention. So they're using this $12 million as a buffer to say you got what you got. There's no need for anything else. And I don't think that this guy, air quotes, black attorney general in Kentucky is going to even pursue this because they had the roughest time getting him to do anything in the beginning. Like I can recall, they went to protest on his own. Actually, at his front door, they went to his house to protest about this. I don't think that he plans on pushing it further. I don't think he does. I mean, the grand jury, awesome, but that's as far as it's going to go. That's what I see. I don't think they intend on doing anything more, which once again leads to this whole idea of black women being disregarded, dismissed, negated, like as being the quote unquote lowest on the barrel of human society in America. Like, and it just speaks loudly. Like we throwing change, which they got the money, but then again, they ain't gonna pay that either.
But here's the other piece that we gotta understand. 198 judges were appointed during the first term of Trump administration, and all of them was white
men.
198 white. And here's what we don't understand. Do you think that these white prosecutors, when they get to be judges, do you think that they're not going to sentence us even harder? Because they're the ones who have prosecuted our kids, our people, and now they're judges.
My God.
No out, nowhere. Why do you think that they're trying to get another Supreme Justice right now? They're going to turn back the hands of time, y'all. Roe v. Wade, all of this. A woman will not have a right to her own body anymore.
What?
Yeah, I see it. I actually see it. That's why I was.
I mean, this is serious. They know what they have their plan, and we're sitting around saying, "Oh, it don't matter." Oh yeah, it matters when you don't even have any control over your own body. Civil rights bills will be turned back. Healthcare bills will be, the Supreme Court will announce judgment on black folks. That's why they're pushing for that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
So we sit around and say, oh, it's going to get better. Only way it's going to get better is we got to vote these people out. We got to vote them out.
Why do you think that people of color are so the churchy term is at ease in Zion? Why we so chill? Like what's happening?
They're trying to get the heaven on flowery bed of Eve, and heaven ain't even in view. Heaven ain't in view. Tell me where heaven is.
I think I think that was a part of the plan too, honestly. Because you think about the way history is taught, like honestly, if it wasn't for the people who I knew when I was growing up, because I know what I learned when I was in school, and it was not what I know now. It was not what I know now about Black history, about what happened. Like there's a disconnect between the present and the past. There's no, and if you think about asking people about 1954 Civil Rights Act, people don't know what that is. They don't even have a clue. There's no clue. And then of course history, like, and I see it in my own school where I'm trying to, I'm working really diligently to reverse it. Like the whole idea of social studies and civics and all that stuff is being taken out of schools so that we're not even made aware that they're taking it away from our kids so that they don't know the legacy that they have as African American children who are growing up in the society and the way things are going. And also they're taking away the right to know that history in its fullness and its truth. And and then of course, and they're hiding it from us, and they're making us feel like we made it. Like you got LeBron, you got Beyonce, you got Jay-Z, a billionaire, you got Kanye, a billionaire, and they're making that loud and proud. Ooh, yeah, as if that's all of us, and it's just not even like any of us. You know what I'm saying?
What people don't understand, T. They don't even understand the Black history that has taken place in New Haven. They don't understand that. I was on a Zoom the other day with a historian from Yale, and I did not know all of this Black history that has taken place in New Haven. And here we don't even teach Black history in the public school system here. And we talk about we made it where? What are you people drunk on? All the history here. Slaves right here in New Haven, downtown on the green. So I've asked this lady, this historian, can we partner in putting a book together in reference to Black history in New Haven? I didn't ask her to put it together. I said, let's partner. And that's what most of us forget. It is a partnership when you talk about us. Let's partner to put this together.
Right.
At least they'll know a Black name. We got problems, people. Thank you for inviting me tonight to be here. And most of our problems in a real circle, y'all. Look at Dick.
Can I just ask this one question? And I'm gonna let both of y'all go. Who's in charge of what is being taught in the school system?
You have an administrative team. You have a school board. And so if they bring it up, if they want it there, the curriculum, why we got to be fighting for?
So you mean to tell us? No, I was gonna say. So you mean to tell me in New Haven, where you got it's all Black people on the board, isn't it?
No, it's the mayor who is white, one other guy who is white, and there is a Hispanic that is white. So you got three whites, and that's what our people got to understand. What nationality do Hispanics go by?
Nobody really wants to be Black, so you know how that goes. Because I often wonder that, because even with the different agendas that are being pushed, I'm like, who came to the table and agreed on that? Like, where are the people at? Where are the people that are sane, that's making decisions that
One of the things I want to say before I go, everybody, my big mama would say, everybody talking about heaven ain't going to heaven. That's a real deal. We talk about heaven, people going to church, going to heaven. You don't know who going to heaven or who going to hell. And so the Black church has to wake up and deal with this digital divide and deal with what is happening to Black people. How you preaching about Jesus and you don't even know who Jesus is. What was Jesus' nationality? Wasn't he a Jew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then who were the original Jews would be the next question. Well, a thinker would say who were the original Jews, but we have a picture of the one that they had in the 70s on the wall with the blonde guy, and we take that as gospel. I hear you. I hear you.
And so we talking about Jesus and what he will do for us, but he has a chosen people over here. And we ain't his chosen ones. I thought I raised that. That doesn't mean I don't love Jesus, but I know how to interpret who Jesus is.
Listen, you got that degree from Yale. You know how to do a whole bunch of stuff from that text. But but I thank you so much, Reverend Kimber, for being with us tonight. We're gonna let you go. You got to call back Biden's folk. We want you to be on to the most important things. And
that is important. Because it's gonna help us spiritually.
Absolutely.
May the Lord
and I need you on that call. We'll talk to you later.
All right, Principal, you take care, and my prayers are with you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. We thank Reverend Kimber for being on with us. Very insightful guy. Trey is saying he's having a hard time getting on. But these are the things that, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, is to be able to raise stuff that people probably don't want to talk about, and that's fine. But it's important for us to know. And I'm probably going to do more of the conversation about the election, because I think people are really not understanding how important this election is going to be for us. And I'm not prejudiced, and it's not because I have a white friend. I'm just not. I'm not prejudiced, but I think that people of color, we need to really understand that this is serious, and we need to get engaged, and we need to get this together. I like what he said about, how are we preaching if we're not preaching about social justice, because again, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility not just to our culture, but to the generations that come behind us, period and totally. If you allow me to switch gears, because we've been heavy for a little while. Here come Dr. Trey. If you don't mind, I like to go back to a post you put up this week, TJ.
Me?
That was just blessing my socks off. Yes. And you let's see if I can get him. You there, Trey?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Well, praise our God.
I was at a candlelight vigil for my friend Jaquan Walters, who was murdered on yesterday in Hartford.
Wow.
Only 24 years old.
This is crazy. And this is what I'm saying. This is crazy that this is still happening. And this is what makes me say, people of color, we're still too lax. Like, what is happening? It's still happening, and we're too lax. We're too lax about it. You, TJ, you had so many. You must have been on fire yesterday, because you had so much profoundness to say. And I said, "Oh my God, he reminds me of myself." You just going in. But it was one in particular. Did I screenshot it? Because I was like, I'm gonna bring this
you
up.
Definitely reposted it. That's the same one.
Huh?
Definitely
reposted. The same one
yeah, I think so.
About connecting with people that are not.
Oh yeah, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time to connect with people that you know are not, who have no intention or interest in going in the same direction that you're going. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just give us a little backdrop on that, because a lot of times people think I'm just venting, and it's not just a vent. A lot of times, there's a lot of the post comes from conversations with people, and I'm just like, wow, you're probably not the only person thinking this. You're not the only person feeling this. So why don't we share this so somebody else can say, oh, this is what everybody is thinking about that particular topic. And folks sometimes think that I'm just, you know, sitting in my room on Facebook with nothing else to do with my life besides be controversial or to you know, rub their feathers the wrong way. But there is, to me, a lot of times, I say this even in church, a lot of times when things are happening in your life and you're all depressed about it, somebody else is going through the same thing. Are they silent? Do you not have access to them? You know, you're over here depressed all by yourself, thinking you're the only person in the world that got a divorce. And there's 12 million people. and nobody's really talking about these things. And we think that support groups are taboo. And if, you know, you got to go to church and cry and get and it feel better. And that everything has its place. But truthfully, if somebody tells you, let's say dating, if somebody tells you, I do not want children, and you know you want a supermarket cart full of them, why are we even talking?
And honestly, and I'll be honest with you, even from the perspective of that particular situation, it was more or less in the lines of celibacy versus wanting to just get some. That was where that came from. Honestly, I was in a situation where that was a part of the conversation where I'm talking about, you know, I'm in a space where that's where I am. I wanna be celibate and waiting for my wife, and this person was like, I just want to, you know, do something. I'm like,
can I have it right now, TJ? I want it right now.
What are we talking about right here? Because what are we talking, and why are we even prolonging the conversation? Like, it's a waste of my time, and it's actually a waste of yours. So you ain't doing what you want. So, right. But I see that happening so much. Like I have, you know, a friend who's been in a relationship with this dude for years. She wants to get married, but he ain't putting up no signs that he's interested. And I'm like, you throwing your years away. What are you doing? Why are you still doing that?
You letting your pretty pass you by.
And women
got to understand this though. TJ, you'll be 70 with a gray beard and all fine. And my 70 will be a whole different thing. And then you'll go get somebody 40. And the man that's 70 don't want her, and the man that's 40 don't want her. So women got to seize the moment.
And also the reality is women operate off a biological clock. That's the real thing. So I'm like, girl, you what? Don't you want to have kids? And like, yeah.
Don't waste the pretty.
Like, but what are you, like, he was trying to marry you. So why are you even, that's not his trajectory. So why are y'all even on the same, why y'all even merging? Y'all lie together if you already know that's not what his path is. But that's what you want your path to be. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And that's where the quote came from, honestly.
Yeah, but that happens all the time. I see people go to churches and they want to shout and run, but these people got hymnals. You know they don't shout and run. What are you doing here? Right. Because you want to go over there with your Pentecostal self, wanting to holler and fall over and get on the Methodist preacher nerves. Get out of here. You know, right. The same. Yeah. There's a whole bunch I could say, but I don't want to get in trouble with a certain group. But if you know that's what you want to do, like Medea said, if you need a smoking section, then you go to the church with a smoking section. Don't come over here aggravating us that we do church a certain way.
Right. And that's one of the issues. That's one of the things that I was saying. I have, you know, and I do have friends who are part of the LGBT plus community, and particularly those of the Black church faith. I often tell them, I'm like, why are you wanting to be a part of a church that don't believe what you do? Like, why are you so hungry to be a part of ministries that don't really care about you, when there are ministries that have been established that are openly welcoming to you, who want you there, who want you to be a part? And why would you subject yourself to merge your spiritual life with churches who don't believe in you, but all they do is want your gift? That's all they want. They don't believe it. They don't believe you want to heaven. Like, why are you even hanging around here? It's like, why do we merge our lives with things that we know don't around what we doing? It doesn't make any sense. So we do it all the time, though.
It doesn't align with our core. Listen, we buying up all the Chinese food, and you can't get a patron for your church from there. And then we'll say Sandra's cost too much, but at least she'll give you a patron for your Pentecostal fish fry or your usher anniversary. We got one-way relationships with a whole lot of things in our community, and it don't make sense.
Right. And it also speaks to your point about, you know, I think you said it earlier about these young black men going into police enforcement and whatnot. And the reality is, like I said earlier, it's hard to see yourself a part of a system that you don't see your life merging with. And black men don't see themselves benefiting from police lives because they kill us. So it's hard to
see. This is the part I wanted us to get, though, TJ. You ain't got to see yourself as a part of the fabric, but you could see yourself retiring 20 years, 25 years, and going on with your life versus still bumming around with and I'm not knocking anybody's job, but no career path.
Right.
So if you could, my problem is I'm fat, so I probably couldn't pass the agility test, all of that running and touching your toes and all of that stuff. I probably wouldn't get past that part. But when you talk about building a career for yourself and having a future, those are certain things that I feel like they're not asking you to go to college. This is something that you can do if you're a little sane. You could have a decent wage, and you could take care of a family off of it. So I understand what you're saying, but there's not many places that are for black men. If you go to I was looking at a big construction thing that's going on in New Haven, and I was looking when I was doing my steps for the day, and I said, I see like one black guy in this whole building. What are he doing?
Mm-hmm.
Is he sweeping up the sheetrock dust? Because and I know that there are black electricians who are licensed and black carpenters who are licensed. Why aren't we getting these city jobs? I don't understand this.
Well, yeah, because honestly, that's not a story that's painted for us. Honestly, like even when I'm doing with my scholars at my schools, I'm making sure that they're not just presenting college to them; they're presenting everything to them. They're presenting the electricians. Because I know electricians make way more than I make. Like I mean, there are jobs that don't require college that really do really good. Like live.
How about those of us with multiple degrees that are still unemployed? How about that?
Yeah, it's so but it's presenting the options. And I think a lot of the time there's a level of this delusion that we live in as a culture that although we think we have this level of I think we're free and I can move around like I'm free, but really I'm scared to tap into what that freedom really looks like. So I reject all that freedom stuff. I reject those opportunities. I reject that you tell me I could do this. I reject the idea that I could be a police officer that could actually change things in the police system. I reject that all those different things because really that ain't for me. That ain't for me. That ain't for us. We are made to feel like we got to live in this bubble in the society that we can only be free in that bubble. We only free in that bubble, in the little bubble of the community that New Havens have created for the black people. They're only free in those communities, which to me is still bondage in a sense.
I was going to say, as long as, and people are going to get mad at this one, as long as you're working for a wage, you're still a slave. Hallelujah. Glory to God. I know a whole bunch of people just fainted right there.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate part is that, and like Reverend Kimber was saying, when you are in the leadership of a corporation or any sort of thing like that, you have to be careful that in certain settings that you cannot speak your conviction, because that might put you on the outs.
Right. And unfortunately, that's another space. This bubble of freedom we live in, it's hard. It's hard, especially when everything you say is being put under a microscope, and then of course your actions, your existence, your ability to move freely in everything that you live in, like that stuff is a real thing.
It's unfortunate that you have professional people who choose to stay in the ghetto because they think it's safer to be amongst their own people.
Right. I almost sometimes feel like I wish I would have, because I had the experience that I had here a couple weeks ago, where this white dude just randomly stopped me and said to me, "I just want you to know you're welcome here." Like, dude, what are you talking about? I've been here for 5 years.
As if you need his permission.
That would have never happened if I lived with my own people. Like that's the stuff those are the things that you're kind of you're kind of balancing, because that you have the ability to move about freely, and I know that. Like, I know I can. But there are certain things that happen that make you really question, like, really, can I? Like, you think about Ahmaud Arbery, like, can I really run if I want to jog and run and do something? Can I really sleep in my own bed? Like, we gotta tell, can I really, can I really do some of these things? Because you have all these examples of people doing these things and dying because of it. Can I really, like, they talk about, gun ownership. Can I really own a gun? Because Fernando Castillo was licensed and he was legal. And they still shot him. Like, can I really have that? Can I really have a permit? People keep saying, get a gun. I'm like, but Fernando Castillo had a gun and they still killed him. Like, so are we really free to do those things?
How about Breonna Taylor's boyfriend was protecting his own house, and they took that as he's shooting at the police? Really?
Can we really do those things? So that also leads to this whole idea of how people keep questioning, does my vote really matter? Because you say it does, you tell me it does, but all these things are happening around me that you tell me that other things are things that you think I can do, but really I can't do those things because you'll kill me. So can I really vote? Does it really matter if I vote? Because so those questions are totally in our head.
I do understand. I do understand where you're coming from with that, because at the end of the day, even when these millions of dollars come into our city, New Haven, that's where I live, we still I don't see any difference between on Star, where I live at, from when Obama was president to when Bush was president to now we have the orange guy as president. If Camilla and Biden get to be president, my street is probably going to look the same. And the reality of it is most Black folks don't go too far from their street. And so if our communities don't change any based on it, we've had a Black president and it didn't look different. Yeah. So I get it. But I also think that, we can't be silent and just like Reverend Kimber was saying, let these resources leave our community, because it's going to take me 3 minutes to get to the poll from my house, another maybe 5 minutes to actually vote. And I want them, I know everybody's worried about the voting, but I'm worried about the stickers after the voting, because I need 2 stickers. They only want to give me 1. I'm trying to figure out why we on a budget for I voted today stickers. But anyway, and so I get it, but we've got to do something. And one of the things is to demonstrate our power is voting. The other thing I think we should be doing is getting to these meetings, to the school board meetings and to the town meetings, and to the police chief has a meeting. We need to go and, whatever meeting, so we can get acquainted with those people who are in these positions, and we can talk openly about what needs to be talked about. Because, me crying about it, to the people at my kitchen table is not where the change happens.
No. That's kind of where I feel. Being a constituent in New Haven, it's hard for us to be critical of these elected officials when we had no hand in really them being there, and then when we had a hand in them getting there, we don't hold them accountable. I think about this. Our current mayor. It's hard for me to believe anything if we're not holding him accountable. Because if everybody was saying he's so much better than what we had, but are we really holding him accountable for what he said? Not so much. So we can't really complain about what he's doing, because we ain't holding him accountable for anything else.
No. And our most precious commodity are our children. And you had a big number of parents that were saying, we need these kids to go back to school. And I'm like, yes, on one hand you do, but is it worth their life to send them back? I don't know. They're your little poopsie. I don't know, but my little poopsie probably would not. I would not be.
Because you can't control anything. Like I told one of my friends that as a principal, I can control what's happening in school. Like, I can be very OCD about everybody wearing their mask and everybody washing their hands, everybody using sanitizer. I can do that in school, but when they leave, I can't do nothing. I have no control of where they go when they're not in my presence. I have no control when they go out, if they go out of town, where they either tell us, not tell us. I have no control over that. So that's really the anxiety that a lot of educators are having. We really don't. There's no control beyond the scope of our control, and that's because this disease is there's no cure for it, or no vaccine.
TJ, we still don't even know. Our president just came out and said, "Oh yeah, it was airborne," but we still don't even know where this thing is coming from. How they said now, they said it's contagious, but if it's airborne, then how did it become contagious?
It's just it's kind of ridiculous.
It really is. It really is, and that's the part. It's like we want to trust the CDC. We want to trust the people that we have in position. And I saw a woman on the news from the CDC saying how the president is undermining them and he's not wearing the mask and blah blah blah. But I'm like, and one of her points was with him doing that. Now the American people don't trust the CDC, and I'm like, I don't trust nobody because I've been saying this. The crazy part is prophetically we spoke this before all of this happened, and then when everything came out, it made us look like a false prophet, praise God. And church people love a false prophet because they love to say you ain't who you say you are. But nevertheless, but when he finally did say it was airborne, I was like, oh, now you want to say I'm not false. Oh, okay, praise God. Yeah. But there's all these different. So now you got people wear the mask because they tell you the breath from your face is making somebody else sick. If it's airborne, my friend. And here's my other thing, right? If I'm home and I have baby powder and I throw it up in the air, right? It only can fall in the perimeter of that room. Maybe the air ducts are taken throughout the house. Maybe. If this thing has come from overseas over here, that means this is strategic warfare. I ain't mean to get on this tonight. And there must be someone in every city that's releasing something in the airway.
You would not believe I actually had this like visual of just literally, and I hadn't told anybody about this in my own head. Like I saw visions of that happen. Like something else is going on that we don't know. And I know that for a fact. I saw it in my head, and it was Thursday. And to hear you actually come out your mouth and describe what I saw in my head, unbelievable right now. I'm like, Lord, I did not say this to anybody.
Listen,
something was happening with it, and in my vision, I saw, I'm not trying to be racially insensitive, but I saw like people from China like here just strategically just touching stuff and doing things. Like I saw moving around. I saw people moving around. It's weird. That's you did right there, crazy.
I mean, at the end of the day, TJ, I'm a Hill House graduate, and I know they don't expect much from us. Okay, I'm just gonna say where I went. But this is not rocket science. You cannot have a virus that's coming from China that ends up in Connecticut. Hello, somebody, help me preach. Someone is strategically, by way of whatever connection they have. See, black folk don't understand this because we ain't connected in no way, even in the church. But let me get to my point here, my text. The point is there has to be some sort of solidarity amongst the people that are distributing this stuff.
But you also got to look. There's some signs. Because I even like after like post-COVID, or not post-COVID, but post the whole people like shut down, I started going back to some of my old spots. And I like to eat Chinese food. I do. I'm on my weight loss journey, but I still like to eat it. And I noticed in the restaurants how barricaded these restaurants are now. Like they going like next level barricading. And I'm like, and I look at the other stores who just getting these little Pepsi glasses, and I'm like, these people actually come from the country where this originated. Something must be there when they have barricaded themselves from the general public. Like that, nobody can't. You can't breathe on them. You can't talk to them. They got little microphones. Like something. Something got to be paying attention to that because their efforts in terms of the way they're keeping themselves guarded from other people is very different than what other people are doing. And I'm paying attention because I'm like, why is that? Because the country of their origin knows something. And it's let them know something where
we just don't know what they know.
Right. And that's the part that like scares me because the way they barricaded, like it was, I could not believe the level of readiness in comparison to other business establishments that I've seen. And I wondered about that. Like, is that on purpose? And I think it is. Not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am far from that. I don't do that. But something about that doesn't make sense to me. Where, like, literally the one that lives, like, the restaurant that's right far from my house, like, they put food on a conveyor belt. They don't even want you touching the food. They don't want you touching it. They put the food on the conveyor belt and send it to you. Nobody else does that. Like, like something's going on here.
It's serious. It's serious. And it's not cool that we have a leader that's like, you're playing with people's lives. And 200,000 people. Could you imagine?
I personally think the Republicans are the dumbest people on the planet because they're letting Donald Trump use them to do for him to gain all his power. Like, they're letting him use them to do all the things he's doing. Because everybody knows that prior to his election, he wasn't even a Republican.
I'll go with that. Or it's the other way around. They're using him as the icon to push their agenda.
Or it could be a partnership.
Well, a man like Donald Trump is all about dough. So, everybody has their price.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate part. Everybody has their price. Even those that say I can't be bought, everybody has their price.
I have one.
And you know what's so upsetting? As fine as Obama is, my God, he's fine, even with his gray hair. It just seems like watching this guy just plow through whatever he wants. He might have been too conservative. He might have had too much class, and he might have been too patient. One thing I like about Joe Biden, he don't mind just coming out and saying that's BS right there. Right there is BS. And I've heard him say it with the real words. And it just gave me joy to hear somebody have a conviction. There's so many good things and dumb things to get involved in. And even if you're dumb and have a conviction, it makes me, I'll say, okay, that I like your spunk. Stupid, but I like your spunk. Mm-hmm. You gotta have a conviction, and you gotta ride it till the wheels fall off. And I can appreciate that about Donald Trump. He came in, he said, "This is what I'm gonna do. I don't care what y'all want."
Yeah,
and he did that even against his own party. He did that
against his own party. Yeah,
and we can't get people to have a conviction. They are really they call it mealy mouth. I don't know if that's a country. You ever heard that in the country? Mealy mouth and jelly bag. Yeah, and they only talk their real trash behind your back, and I'm like there's no efficiency in that. I get more pride from talking trash to your face because then you know exactly what I meant. And that's the unfortunate part. This is what we're dealing with. Yeah. We did the same thing in our town with Mayor Harp and Mayor Elliker. Everybody was determined. We're going to get rid of her. She ain't doing nothing and this and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think any politicians do anything. That might come back to bite me, but I don't. And but if we can get one with a conviction, have a conviction about something, not just
I want to. It's their job to do anything. It's our job to make them. That's why they work for us. But we don't make them, so they do what they want, which is never ever what we want them to do. Because we don't make them do anything.
I think, again, going back to your point, people don't want to vote because I vote all the time, and my street looks the same pothole. I have a big tree on the end of my driveway. A person brought this is colored folk for you. Someone had a U-Haul, TJ. They dumped the whole U-Haul out at the truck, at the trunk of this tree. And this is our community. This is our place of living. And and I'm like, you brought a whole U-Haul to leave right here. There's what they call a city dump. You live in the city, you go there and you put all that stuff in the little hole. I've been there a number of times, but you chose to put it on a street where people live.
Yeah.
So a lot of our problem is our own fault, our own ignorance. It's foolishness. And I wish I would have saw them doing that. I was looking, trying to see if I could see who was out there doing that foolishness. But we are our own problem.
Yeah, we are our own problem. I think we have a lot of inner work to do as a people because,
a whole people can't have a therapist. How we get a therapist for the whole race?
Well, we got a lot of like dissections of Black people who believe that we're in different places in our lives. Like we have, it will be very easy for me to be a successful Black man and be like, I don't have those problems, I don't care. And there are some Black people who actually believe that because they made it a certain place and they don't have those problems. And they're okay no matter who the president is in their minds. They don't care about the issues that are, that our most vulnerable people in our communities are facing because they had this whole idea of pulling up my bootstraps, whatever that whole dumb saying is, and which I think is ridiculous because, as far as I'm concerned, somebody gave all of us a shot. None of us really did it on our own in terms of Black people. Somebody had to give us a shot to do something. And
it is a saying. I can't remember who said it. When one of us is in captivity, we all in captivity. Something like that. If one of us ain't free, we all ain't free. Something like that.
Yeah.
And but it is. I get it. It is sometimes the expectation that you go to school, you get your degree, you get your job or your career path, and you move away from that foolishness, and you go on with your life. And a lot of I have my days. Like I have a neighbor now who bought a rooster, TJ. A rooster. Like we need this in the ghetto.
They actually bought it?
All day I hear cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo, cock-a-doodle-doo. Yeah. Yes. And we hear this all day.
And nobody's shot that rooster to eat it. I would have, it's down the south. I know how to do that. Catch it and go. See,
my mother and them is from the country, TJ. I'm very city like that. I don't do too much outside.
I know how to do it, and I've seen it happen. Catch the rooster and let's have some.
My mother said you wring the chicken's neck, but that's that country stuff there. I'm very city. I don't touch dirt too much. I know.
Oh yeah, you're very city. I grew up on the farm, so I know.
If that chicken is on a plate though, with some hot sauce, I got you.
All you need is a BB gun. Get a BB gun.
Yeah. It's illegal. Some lima beans and some rice. That chicken goes down, but I can't do it. Oh yeah, I've had that in deer. My mother's country. She from Hemingway, South Carolina. Come on here.
I know all about him.
Yeah, come on, Lake City over down there. Mm-hmm. But I'm very city. Now I'll eat the country stuff, but I don't prepare it very much.
It's a chicken. You've eaten chicken, so it's eat the chicken.
Yeah,
the rooster meat is tougher than the hen, but people prefer the hen. People don't prefer the rooster. For whatever reason, the rooster's meat is tougher.
Yeah, we want, but the little hens are very tender.
Yeah, so
that thing sounds like it's loud.
What I did about are there hens around? Is it the rooster? No hens, just rooster.
They're Jamaican, so I don't know what they're doing over there. I just stay on my side.
That's interesting.
The thing is too loud. That's my problem.
Yeah.
I want them to be quiet. But I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I don't want to hold you up all night. This was excellent. I enjoy having you on. Trey was having some connection issues, and this wasn't a good night for him, but we're gonna definitely have him back. We like to have thinkers on and people that could share a perspective. And we're gonna keep this thing alive because there are conversations that need to be had, and people don't want to have them, and that's just too bad. So they're gonna either keep scrolling or go back and watch because they don't want me to know they watching, because then their name come up. But then we'll see them watch.
Being a trailblazer, I've always said being a trailblazer is not easy at all. So I think you doing this is a trailblazer move. So you got to be ready for that backlash because people don't understand what you're doing because they're not the people. Only trailblazers understand what trailblazers do.
Well, I told my pastor before I started this church, sometimes we get frustrated with people because they don't see the vision. And I said to him, well, if they saw the vision, that would make them the leader. Hello. That's why Habakkuk said you have to write it and make it plain so that others may run. I ain't trying to be churchy, but I'm just saying, and I totally agree with you. Sometimes you got to step out in faith and just do it the way God gave it to you. and let the chips fall where they may. And I thank God for my mother. Let me say this. I thank God for my mother and how she raised me. She raised me to, and my stepfather, because he probably was more open sometimes than she was, because sometimes she just wanted to punch me and say, be quiet. But he was always very on task with, no, speak your mind. Don't be disrespectful, but speak your mind. Right. And I don't think everybody grew up in a culture or a household like that. And it allowed me to grow into who I am now, which is, and some, like you said, some people won't understand it. They think it's me being obnoxious, but it's not. It's me, just sharing a perspective that sometimes doesn't fit into our church box, our Christianity box. And it's okay sometimes to say, what if?
But
I didn't get a chance to ask Reverend Kimber tonight because he said his dissertation was about the homosexuality, but we're going to definitely have a conversation soon about, can you be saved and gay? Because there's a whole bunch of people who are struggling with their sexuality and their spirituality because a few straight people who also have a spirit of perverseness, if we're going to be biblical, won't allow them to be themselves with quote unquote their spirit of perverseness. And it's like all sin is sin in God's eyes. So what are we doing with that? But we definitely gonna get to that soon. But I didn't want to cut you off. What were you saying?
I was just saying, thinking back to the way you were raised, you got to also remember that culturally we're not raised that. A lot of people are not raised to be able to speak our minds. That's a code, right? We're culturally, like, we are suppressed in communication. Like, our communication skills were suppressed. We were like, I can remember we were going over some virtual lessons in my school, and one of the points were teaching our kids to accept no as an answer. And I was like, no, we're not doing that here. Because we got to teach our kids how to be able to not just accept no, but to respectfully ask why, or respectfully understand. Because we've been taught as a people to always accept whatever that we're given, accept the no, and don't ask any more questions. That's been our culture.
Because kids were seen and not heard. Women were property. Well, actually, men and women were property in the slave situation. But I often say, you learn to talk naturally. You need to be taught how to communicate.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of people who probably would be better off in relationships and not just marriages, but friendships and churchships and situationships would be better off if people just learn how to communicate what they're thinking and feeling without any big emotion, without any drama. It's okay to be like, you getting on my nerve right now. Don't mean I don't love you, but you're pressing the red button. and where I come from, when you press the red button, the horns go up, and you don't want that. Praise God. Right. And so, we really have to learn to communicate. And I don't forget who was on the show one time that said we have to be better with our appetite, what we have an appetite for. And I almost got discouraged about the show because I feel like people of color don't have an appetite for this. If I got up here and I started my conversation off with, let me tell you about Reverend so-and-so, the numbers would be off the roof, right? I saw him at the Hotel 8. The numbers would be off the Richter scale. But we have to develop a appetite for things that are going to nourish our soul, spark our intellect. That's why I say a lot of times it's information, entertainment, and shenanigans, because we're going to have a good time. But it's very important. These things we're talking about is very important, because Breonna Taylor could be me or you. Aubrey could be me or you. George Floyd could be me or you. It just could be. And there's no need to wait to scream in the streets after the fact, when we could go to the polls and vote, when we can be at these board meetings, when we could get a handle on our community. These kids in the street that are shooting are not kids we don't know. It's kids we're not interested in, though.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time. These are your church kids that the parents come to church and they're in leadership, but they leave their kids at home, or they live in any kind of way in front of the kids and they don't want to come to church. This is what our community is based off, and we got to get this together. It's our job to get it together. Yes, we're going to vote. Yes, we want the right people in place, but it's our job to get it together. It's my job. I saw a little boy walking down the street. TJ, his hairline was almost on his eyebrows. And I said to Gershom, I said, pull him over. Tell him, give him $10 and tell him get a haircut. How much is a haircut? Because he looked unkept. He did. And I'm like, we don't know what his situation is. Give him the $20. Tell him go get a haircut. And we got to do stuff like that because it is necessary.
Yeah.
So I thank you for being here tonight. A great friend of the show. I'm going to be harassing you. We're going to get Trey on here next time. We thank Reverend Kimber, and we thank all of you who have been watching. Y'all have a blessed night and awesome week, and we'll see you next week on another session of T is Talking. God bless y'all.